You know, I was just sitting in that reading session, so much beautiful music. And I think at the heart of it all were the stories and the text. And that's what keeps us coming back. You know, that's what makes us go, yeah, I need that, I need to hear that, I need to sing that text. And when I began to think about this class and this particular session, text, how important is the word? I love orchestral music. I love Lynne music. People think I'm weird, but I really do. As a French horn player, I love Lynne music. It's exciting to watch. But there's something about choral music where you combine that music, the power of the music, with the power of the word, the written word, and in our case, the word of God. And the thing that struck me most as I began to think of the title was, in the beginning, was the Word. The Word was God. The Word was with God. And that's what I began to think about. The Word, meaning Christ. And yet it's through His Word that He speaks to us most. And He touches our hearts. And He gives us hope. And He clarifies things with truth and with promises. So I don't think we can emphasize enough text in what we do as choral musicians. Not only though does the choir give that message out, but it's through the text, through those very words, that we achieve blend. We talked about the vowel being where we tune the choir, literally. We achieve intonation through those vowel sounds. And so it's interesting that we understand the import of the message, and at the same time, the beauty of the sound comes from those very components, building blocks of the text. I think that's really, really cool. So I've given you a handout. I'm big at handouts. You know, music education people, we have to have a handout. We can't work without a handout. We've talked yesterday, for those of you that were in that session, a little bit about the vowel sound and the need for intonation. In the next session, I hope some of you will come back, because you're going to be, without you, I have no session. And we're going to talk about putting voices into sections. You know, we all have those wonderful folks that we love them so much, but they're challenges for us vocally. And you just go, well, that was, you know, where do you want me to sit? Well, how about out there? You don't want me to do that. But so where do we put them so that we, and not that any of you would have that issue, but how do we position voices to optimally utilize that voice in an acoustical standpoint? So that's what we're going to do. And so everybody's going to get to sing, and we're going to kind of get up here. I hope it's not, I don't think it's going to be a big old group, but I think that you might find that interesting. Right now, though, we are going to talk a little bit about the intonation issue, and I'm going to give you just some little things that I do with choirs. Sometimes I do it with all-state choirs and church choirs, whatever, just from the standpoint of having them understand. If you've not done these things, they're quick and easy to do, but you can do it with your church choir and kind of have them understand how important it is when you harp on the vowel sounds, and they kind of go, one more time about a vowel and I'm out of here. But it's so, so very important. What I'd like for you to do, I'm going to work with, where's sopranos right now? Sopranos, okay. So wherever you are, sopranos, would you all sing, ooh, go. Ooh. Let's see, you're so smart, you're so good. Why can't we all have a choir like that? All right, so one voice though, let's see, one soprano voice. Who did, raise your hand again? Okay, let's see, you get to be the lucky person. I want you to give me a southern, like where he said from North Georgia, where I come from, ooh, not ooh, but ooh, okay? Now, matter of fact, sopranos, I need you all up here. Come up here and help me. Come up here and help me just a second. Intonation. It only takes one or two voices to pull it out. You know what I mean? And you just, and sometimes people, I know I've looked at students and I say, round that ooh out, come on, round it, and they go, ooh, and you go, round that out, I am, ooh, and you want to bring a mirror or something. Sometimes if you just have them listen and watch each other. So ladies, we're going to create that beautiful ooh sound that you had, ooh, round it out, go. Here we have a problem with voices there. Let's change it again. One voice. Let's have three voices. You do it. Give me a ooh sound and Good. Now then, I'm not even going to prescribe what kind of ooh sound. Just sing any old ooh you want. Go. Sound familiar? Yeah. How about doing this, ladies? Just go, whatever ooh you're doing, take this and then make your mouth go around and just do a circle in front of your mouth. And ready? Go. Yeah, and all of a sudden, they can hear that. And they go, that could have been me. But it was. Yeah. Ladies, I did a really, really good job of that. And I feel like I need to use you more. Let's talk a little bit about blend, which gets us into yeah, I will do this. We'll do it with the whole group later, but since I have a good group of ladies and they're captive and so are you, I can do this right now. All right, ladies, what I'm going to do is have every one of you just do this for me real quickly. Beautiful. Lovely. Excellent. Lovely. Good. That's good. Thank you. Good. Good. Very nice. Okay, I'm going to go through and just sort of point to different people, and I'm listening right now for voices that are very similar and voices that are different. Okay? So when I hear, and I'm going to call the similar voice, the one I'm looking for right now is the very round, round and sort of open sound. Now that's not you. That doesn't mean that's right. That's just what I'm listening for right now. So you just go in and we're going to do it one more time and see if we listen the same way. Okay? Here we go. Okay, now they're all kind of sounding the same now. But that's all right. This voice is it's a little more closed. Perfect. All right, so I'm gonna come on and just touch her just a second. Just touch her, okay? Go ahead. Great. And I'm gonna touch her as well. Beautiful voices. Go ahead. I'm gonna touch her as well. Okay, go ahead. And Eileen as well. I'm touching you, Eileen. Okay. Okay. Okay, good. Okay. And Catherine, the ladies that I touch, would you step forward, please? Okay, now then, I'm going to have all you other ladies just come up here, if you don't mind, and we're going to put you right here. Right, say you, I'm sorry, I got to read past it. Right here, Susan right here, and it's Laura here, and Eileen here, and Linda here, and Catherine here. Now then, all you together, please. Ready? Ooh, go. Do it one more time. Good. Gotta have all the ladies that I touch. Would you sing, please? Go. And all the ladies that I did not touch, would you sing? Now all together. Could I have all the ladies that I touch all leave and come stand on this side right now? I'm making a point here. There's a method to my madness. Can you hear differences in those two sentences? Yes. Now, if I put all of those singers on one side or the other, let's see what our blend is. I'm going for blend right now. Ready? All of them together. It's pretty, there's no doubt about it. This is a good group of singers. It would probably be more drastic with my average church choir, but all right, one more time, please, go. Good. Now then, would you go back and integrate into the group again? And let's hear a difference, so you can remember where you were. Ready? Go. Hear a difference? Now, that's just an acoustical thing. It is subjective. I can move people around. Matter of fact, we might get different sounds if I bring Angie and have Eileen and Angie change places. Would you do that? And then let's have see. I would like for you maybe to come and stand. Linda, if you don't mind coming over to the end there, and we'll put Susan there. Now let's do it again. Ready? Go. Yeah. We can have different sounds. It feels different to sing with different people, as you well know. Sometimes it's a good feeling, sometimes it's not such a good feeling. But nonetheless, as conductor, my ear becomes final arbiter of what I want to hear. And that's why I say I want to hear. It is subjective. Other people might work for a different sound. They might, instead of that, I told you that the sound I was looking for was that round, full sound like this. Now those other sounds are equally beautiful. Weston Nolan, there is a wonderful video that Weston did. It's on the resource materials list that I've passed out to you. It's called Changing Choral Tone, or Choral Tone based on standing position. And he is if you've ever worked with Weston before, you know who I'm talking about, Weston Noble, Luther College for many years. And he is not first and foremost a singer, he's an instrumentalist. And so he worked with orchestras a lot. And so he thinks of singers as instruments. Brass, and mostly men's voices, or brass from the standpoint of maybe French horn, trombone, tuba. It thinks of women's voices more like flute and clarinet and different types of winds. So it's not a matter of right or wrong, it's a matter of just colors. And then how do we take colors within a section and work for homogeneity? Okay? And I've sort of gotten into my next session, but I didn't know if you'd be back, and I just wanted to do that much for you. Because that and blend, to me, kind of go hand in hand. It's really, really important when you're working with treble voices. Now, I'm doing this with adult ladies. I'll hasten to tell you that if I'm doing this with junior high or high school singers, I'm looking for pure voices versus breathier voices. When you hear those breathy voices, you hear those pure voices, and then you start interspersing them, you're going to get a whole different sound, and it's really very cool. If you work with junior high voices, try this. It works with guys as well as girls. So anyway, thank you, ladies. Can you give them a big round of applause? Thank you so much. The next thing on the little sheet is the unison within section. Building the unison sound. And I made the comment yesterday. Unison singing is some of the hardest thing you've ever listened to. And yet, we kind of think of it as, oh, this is the easy part. And there's a lot of unison singing in some of the things that I heard today. And you're going to hear some more of that in some of this packet from tonight. Even one of the most, probably more difficult piece in there is Before the Marble This Night. And it's not difficult from a musical standpoint. It's difficult from a singing standpoint. Because it requires lots of technique, and it requires unison all the time. But when we get right down to it, when we're thinking of intonation and just blend within our choirs, it all boils down to unison and achieving unison within section. And if we can do that, that becomes our goal, and that becomes the end that achieves the final end, which is that balance and blend and beauty of tone. Now, we hear that. How do we have our singers hear that? Because you see, we can tell them. But at some point, they have to take responsibility. They have to listen. But before they can listen, they have to know what they're listening for. And so doing a little exercise like that helps the ladies up here, but it also allows the rest of the choir to hear. And they hear the difference. They can see that if we want to even shape that vowel further, round that ooh out to that perfect round sound, and that's going to make that core tone even more reinforced from a harmonic standpoint. Harmonic as in overtones, that type of thing. All right? Now, we get into some pretty complex things, and you think, well, now, can I do that with my church choir? I think if we just simply go as far as to not accept sometimes what they give us. Because they just sing, and that's great, and we want that joy singing, but they must take responsibility to listen. A violinist or a pianist would never just come out and just play or, just honk away. They play with sensitivity. And I think sometimes as singers, we don't train the singer to think of the responsibility that they have as far as listening and monitoring what is coming out. That's half of the education that we do with them, is training them to listen. Now, so I used to do some community choir things in Tampa, Florida for about 16 years. And it's children and youth. But I had a group of parents. Parents would come to those rehearsals and they'll sit and they'll listen, Well, what I found that was so interesting is we began to create a group of parental musical snobs. Because they would listen and, okay, we would go to a competition or whatever and we'd sing for other choirs and the parents would go, and they didn't make their ooh like this, and they were just like, our kids do that, and they become very technically aware. And our students do too. Eventually, our choir will too. Every single one of our lay people that are choir members and have sung in choirs, they know how to sing properly. They've been taught. They're not music majors, but they have had those skills given to them. We need to reinforce those skills with all of our singers. And for those singers that have not had that experience, then the challenge is to encourage them and to teach them in the process. Resonance is another huge thing. A lot of times there's breathiness in the tone or just a lack of focus. I think the resonance, when we sing, just on an M sound, everybody do that, please, go. There's a little exercise that I like to use, and it starts with a vowel, but then we're going to put a little N sound to it. Sing. Good, and we're going to go. And I'll start with a spinning tone here. E, O, A, U. You try that. Ready? Go. Very good. Now then, I want you to sing just an N sound. Go. Now sing E. Go back to the N. O. So we talked about those vowels, keeping the vowel tone open, and then I added the resonance factor. Otherwise, how will our choir sing it? If we don't talk about N as being the ability to bring tone forward, they'll sing the vocal line is here, and it's simply brought forward every single time by that N sound. It keeps the focus and the placement. Resonance is sort of it's a necessary thing, but it's something that's very hard for people to understand. When you sing a voiced consonant, you feel the forward placement of the sound. The key is feeling the forward placement with the lifted soft palate. We don't want in the back of the throat, but rather bringing everything forward. We have to hear that. We have to help them to hear that. Does that make sense to you? And sometimes just isolating just a little bit in the warm-up allows us to refer back to that. All right? Going down to building vocal line. The line is so important. I made the comment yesterday. I think that the notes are important and certainly rhythms are important, but what happens between each note is the line. And that is based in the breath. And for me, that's what moves you. That's the thing that reaches out and takes a hold from an expressive standpoint to the listener. And it's based in the breath. All right? So that singing on the vowel line is so important. I use the oo vowel because it lifts the soft palate. Then I start with, and then here's a circle of vowels, and that doesn't make much sense, but if you go from soon around like on a clockwise fashion, you might want to just draw some arrows, which I did not draw before I printed this. Soon, soul, father, see. Those are just key words. The real circle is that's where we're going. So you do that with me. Ready? Go. Go backwards. Just to practice that with our people. Because when you say sing an oh, they go, oh, say sing an ooh. They sort of take it and don't see it as all connected. And that connection is the placement. Go over to the next one, and now we're just going to get some variants around that E vowel. You try. Ready? Go. Go backwards. Now we use the outside of the mouth, but what's really moving? The tongue. The tongue. We're changing the shape. Every vowel formant, if we looked at from a spectrographic standpoint, it's where the tongue is placed that sets up the sound waves to look different on the spectrum. And so that's where the intonation really occurs, and that's where the harmonics are set up. That's the whole principle behind intonation. Triphthongs, diphthongs. Diphthongs are all through our music. What's the little, if you talk to your group about diphthongs, what's the rule about diphthongs? Typically we hold the primary portion in whatever first part, like the word I. And put the E at the very end. Most of our choirs will go, I, and they chew that vowel up, you know. And so if we think about this from a rhythmic standpoint, if that's for 3 beats, I, it goes on the and 3. Y'all do that. Ready? Go. We give it a definite place to be. Now then, I'd like for all the tenors and basses to change it on beat 3, and altos and sopranos change it on beat 3.5, or the half and the 3. Ready? Go. You're good. You're good. And a lot of times that's what we hear in the choir. All right. So from a rhythmic standpoint, that's out of tune. It becomes very much out of tune because the E vowel begins to beat with the ah. So now, once again, everybody put the E right on the and 3. And it just fixes the intonation. Taking that principle, a lot of the time we'll just talk to them about the E and they go, well, where do you want me to put it and why? Just that little example already gives them an idea about, they can hear it. Oh, that's the reason. Now there are those diphthongs, such as you, where the primary part of the sound is the quick. All right? So you don't go, you go, and knowing the difference. The word N-E-W, a lot of times people will pronounce that how? New, new, give me a new heart. Even the word Y-O-U. That little E sound, number one, the E is a forward vowel, so it lines it gives more resonance to the tone, and then the oo comes out of that. All right? Triphthongs, power, awa, par, ar, so we hold the primary, and then we put the last two little right at the very end. They have to know the difference of that. The other thing is the R. We talked a little bit about that yesterday. 3 R sounds, yes? The American R is what most people sing in America. Power. All right? Number 1, the R will bring that down. The other R is the Italian R, which we do utilize in the English language, especially when we sing. In certain, for instance, classical music uses it all the time. Praise, praise the Lord. We don't go Lord, but we go Lord. But we use it right at the beginnings especially. All right? And then there's that British R. Paul, the Queen Mother. All right? That's the one that will help us. It's a schwa. And when to utilize that schwa? It's sort of like in German, the word meine. A lot of times we don't know. Do we go meine? Meine, what? It's mine. Mine. It's very slim. So it's the same sort of thing with not our. Okay, enough of that. All right. And I guess what I'm trying to do, this is nothing new to any of you, I am sure. Making this, we sometimes think, maybe our choir will understand it. And not that you have to harp on it for every single word, but to make them realize that this is part of, these are the tools that we use to make that text come alive, to make it understandable by the audience. And if it's understandable, is it also presentable from the standpoint, are they more confounded by the fact that, my goodness, that sounds kind of like, well, and maybe it doesn't even bother people. With some of the new music that's out nowadays, stylistically, you would never do some of these choral techniques. If you're doing contemporary gospel, you're going to change that. You're going to do a different style. If you're doing contemporary Christian, you would not do some of this. But from a choral standpoint, where we all have to get 25, 55, whatever, that many people singing to where it sounds in tune, we're going to have to employ some of these and at least have agreement on whichever way we choose to sing it. All right? In the case of the, I left the word off. Letter C there is for consonant. And what that does is it creates the intelligibility of the vocal line. All right, so those are consonants that stop pitch. Stop. Tick. Oh, I thought of that. All right, and then just the T sound. The S's, the S, the SH, CH, sibilant sounds, also very important. They have rhythmic integrity. They add rhythmic integrity to what we do. So we have to understand exactly where do we want that S? Where does that CH happen? And I think that we have to tell them, I want that on the end of 2. Or just want to put the T right on beat 3. Because when that happens, then we all do it and we hear it cleanly. And even the most amateur children's choirs can do that very beautifully. And the diction becomes impeccable. And after all, that's what we want. We want that diction to get out so that the message is obvious. Voiced consonants. What are those? V, NG, TH, then there are those, like TH when it's in thick, it's a sibilant sound. And F, but when it's like an of, it becomes a V. And those are really, really important because they help to, again, bring tone forward, but they help increase vocal line. And rather than just go, they actually can do some. And so that really helps when we're emphasizing some particular words. Slumber, sleep, 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 sleep. See, we can take those consonants, we can draw them out. I always used to use this example. Y'all know who Barbara Streisand is, right? At least some of you might. Barbara Streisand, I think, is a wonderful singer. She's kind of a strange individual sometimes, but she has, one of the things that I think that she's so good at is when she would do concerts, it was like, you could taste those consonants as she said. They were just, and I used to listen to my record player, and it was like she was right there next to me, because she did something with consonants. Sandy Patty, if you've ever heard her sing, she even talks about in one of her routines about listening to Barbara and trying to do that. Sandy Patty does it. Really good singers used to do that, you know. And I used to use the example of Barbra Streisand until now it realizes that nobody in the choir knows who in the world that woman was. So anyway, word stress. We're going to look at two pieces, and Clint, you can come on up. Syllabic word stress. And this is going to talk about, as conductors, we can show that with gesture. I think that it's important as we talk about text, to read the text, to see how we would say some of those words. I've selected two pieces for you. And the first one that we're going to look at is God of Grace. I love Keith Getty and Kristen, his wife, but this is Keith and Jonathan Ray. I love the hymns. They're just beautiful, and I think they're going to stand the test of time. And I think the thing that is most interesting for me in some of their texts is the fact that it's so applicable, and there is spiritual truth in them. And so anyway, this is one that's like that for me. But there are words, bringing words out. God of grace, amazing grace. God of grace, amazing wonder, irresistible and free. God of grace, amazing wonder, irresistible and free. Those are the words we're going to bring out. And as I'm conducting that, hopefully my gesture is going to show that as well. And we're going to get into that in just a minute. But that syllabic stress speaks to the poetic import of the text. It also encourages motion in the line. God of grace. And it's interesting, good composers always elongate. We're not always. But a lot of times we'll elongate some of those important words. And when they don't do that, then we have to do a little bit more with the syllabic stress. But also that gesture. Would you look, please, and just speak that text with me, please? And we'll just speak it together. God of grace, say it.
God of grace,
amazing wonder, irresistible and free. Now we're not necessarily in tempo, but when we say the word irresistible, we don't say irresistible, we say irresistible. So when we sing irresistible and free, just because it's two equal quarter notes, irresistible and free, irresistible and free. That's another thing. Is it irresistible or resistible? All right, and you make a choice on that. I kind of tend to go with irresistible and free. I'll go with the brighter vowel because it tunes better, or I can bring some resonance in the tone. Irresistible is the word, okay? Now then, what I'd like for you to do is to conduct this, and Clint's going to play, you can sing, but would you conduct starting at measure 6, and what I'd like for you to do is just do it in a basic 3 pattern, and no syllabic stress, but then we're going to talk a little bit about gesture. Here we go, right on measure 6. Ready? 1, 2. Do it again, just simple. Go ahead and sing exactly the way that you conduct. Ready, 2, and go. God of grace, amazing wonder, irresistible and free. All right, good. Now then, go and when you do it this time, I'd like for you to God of grace, amazing wonder. So what you're going to do, sagittal plane is this way, and then also the ictus. We're going to go just a little bit lower on all those notes that have syllabic stress. So for instance, I'll do it this way, and hopefully you can see it a little bit better. 2. God of grace, amazing wonder, irresistible, free. So every time I'm leaning down a little bit further, I want that stress. All right, you try it with me. Ready? And 1, and go. God of grace, amazing wonder, irresistible and free. Lovely. Do irresistible. Irresistible. You try. Ready? Go. And so forth. All right, let's try a little bit more. Let's sing this together, and then if you want to conduct with me, we can certainly do that. Do you know this? Has anybody done this particular piece? If you have, great. Here we go. Right on that measure again. Ready? 1, 2. God of grace, amazing honor, irresistible. Gentlemen. Oh, the miracle of mercy, Jesus reaches out to me. God of grace, I stand in wonder, as my God restores my soul. His own blood has made my ransom, awesome cost to make me whole. Lovely. God of grace, you know before all will be done. Sent my Savior down from heaven, perfect God and perfect man. God of grace, I trust in Jesus, I accept as His own. Every day will grace sustains me as I lean on Him alone. This is a beautiful violin accompaniment too. It's in the back of the music, which is nice, because you don't have to work with it. A little Amazing Grace. And sing. God of grace, I stand astounded. This wondrous become. All my fears confounded, and my hope is ever sure. One. I like this piece. You know, the verse that gets me is that one at the top of the part, page 5, starts at bottom 4. God of grace, who loved and renewed me long before the world began. And that really comes out of Psalm 139. And it's, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. He knew me before, knit me in my mother's womb. And I remember, I'm a cancer survivor, and I remember before my surgery, I was fortunate to have this wonderful surgeon who's a wonderful Christian. And she said, okay, Lynne, we'll put you to sleep. What would you like me to pray? And what would you like, scripture read, whatever? I'm thinking, oh my goodness, she's actually going to put me to sleep using scripture. So she read this Psalm 139. And I don't know if you've ever had a situation in your life where you don't understand why things are happening to you. And yet, it's those verses and those promises like this, that nothing's going to happen to me that's not been Father filtered first. That He knew me before the world began, and He's ordained all of my days, even before. And so, it's those types of verses that, and these types of songs, that we need, at least I need, and I think all of us do, our congregations need that. I heard it today, beautiful, beautiful text that strengthened the spirit, reminding us of promises, knowing that God is sovereign. No matter what happens in this world, that He is on the throne. Even if our eyes can't see it, we know it. Because what is faith? If we can not see, if we don't only see things, faith is that which is unseen. And so sometimes it's hard to see, but it is true, you know. And I think that these types of songs have that in it. I would like for you to look a little bit with me. When you go to page 7, God of grace, I stand astounded. What do we call that? Stand astounded, cleansed. We hear that S sound repeated. In literature, we call that alliteration. And those are times that, you know, He wants this forte here. There's no doubt about it. But you can really use the text. Those consonants begin to have rhythmic import, and not only rhythmic import, but they begin to have dynamic import from the standpoint of what the text is saying. Would you sing that please with me? And as we conduct that, I'm talking about gesture. Here is a verse that I would begin to use a mirror gesture. Sometimes we get in the habit of using mirror gesture all the time. I'm not one of those that thinks mirror gesture is bad. However, if we use it all the time, it weakens its power. So that when we get to here, if we've already been using the mirror gesture, all you can really do is get bigger. And that doesn't do much for you. So the idea is to let that mirroring help you to say what you want to say. So would you start please at the top of page 7, right on where God of grace at the E flat, please. Ready? 1 and 2. God of grace, I stand astounded, praise for you. Watch this again, and Clint, do with me. Ready? And 1. God of. That's called a melded gesture. And what you're really doing is you can show the crescendo and then pick back up on beat 3. The melded gesture is another one that some people don't like. However, when we're really conducting line and phrase, it begins to be something that's very, very transferable to the singer. All right? You try that with me. Ready? Everybody, so what we're going to do is 1, God of grace. Now, great. So we're going to grace. We're feeling 2. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2, 3 and 1. So we can do it just with one hand. Grace, now crowned in glory. Add the mirror gesture to carry the phrase through because we don't want a breath thing. All right? Try it please again. Ready? Everybody conducting, and Clint will join us at the God of Grace last measure top of that page. Ready? And 1. It looks a little funny. All right, face. A lot of times you can just touch it. Face. Boom. I'll slow motion. Face. Boom. And then your prep, your release is your prep for the third beat there. Okay? Try it one more time with me. Take it from glory, where one day. Ready? Here we go. And glory. But we're really going to, I don't want that sound to decay. Great. Well, maybe you do. In which case you would go, grace. Okay? It also, the left hand becomes free to put the final consonant there. You could use grace or grace. Whatever. There's many different ways to cut that off. But if we go, grace, that's not going to work. I mean, it's going to work, but it's going to be weird sounding musically. We don't want grace. All right? All right. And that little coda. And forever, I'll adore you in your last. And you can really carry that down. Would you try that with me, please? And forever. Measure 67. 1, 2. And you can hold them, because when you train them to use their papers, lusty. There's that consonant pattern pitch, lusty. You can control that right now. And I'd say the word control is what we're actually doing, but what we're really doing is we're enjoying every consonant and making that word grace that much more powerful. Less becomes more. All right? Put that away. Yes, ma'am.
I think a lot of times the people are trying to not do those kinds of songs. It tends to mess up the intention, but I really like what you just did with that word.
Lasting.
So how do you control that? Because if I would tell them they could do that,
The NG.
too much.
I show it with my hands. I tell them, watch my hand. And then they won't watch. I say, do it with me. And I have them hold their little hand up. And they get the idea that we're going to slow that down. The other thing I think where you're talking about is a grace. If they, let's back up. Because I think that our greatest fear is like at the top of page 9. Everlasting grace. Is that what you're talking about? No? Oh. Glory. Is that one? Yeah, I typically don't have them elongate unless I want to do it for emphasis. And then I would stick with what you're telling them, but say, right here, we're going to do this. But typically the rule would be that we not hold on to all of that, but we can do it for emphasis, and we can do it to create line. In other words, I guess it's a tool. We have certain rules, but then we have tools that if we need to have more elongation there, a more feeling of resonance and tone, we can use it to that end because it sets up that last word of grace. And I think that they can understand that. At least that's what I would do. And I think you're constantly listening. And I have to say this, a big caveat. Anything that I do here, if I did this with your choir and it didn't work, I would change it immediately. All right, sometimes, you know, teachers, we go in with our plan and we work our plan. But then sometimes our plan don't work. And then you go, be creative, let's try it. I'm not kidding. I mean, that's how I do it. I'd be lying to you if I said, oh, this works every time for me. Well, most of the time it does. Maybe one choir it won't, so I might have to adjust. So I think that you know your choir and what you're teaching them. If you would like to try that, you say, remember what you know, we're just going to change that just a little bit because we want this word grace and this is how we're going to do it. Okay, that's a really good question. Thank you. Would you look at the King of Love, my shepherd is? You know, this is one of those pieces. Sopranos and altos start in unison, guys start in unison. This is a strophic, rather strophic piece. It's kind of verse 1, ladies, verse 2, men, verse 3, all ladies in the melody. There's a little bridge, and then it goes into men have the melody, and a little augmentation, and then you're down to a coda. Dan Forrest. I like Dan's music. They're doing something on the Texas All-State, You Are the Music. And he writes mostly church stuff, but he's getting into like all different types of genres. And he's from Kansas, I think he's from the Northeast, but it's at University in Kansas, and just a great, about 34 years old, young fellow, just a wonderful conductor. This isn't, a composer, this is an arrangement of his, but I have to tell you, look at some of his sacred music. He publishes with Henshaw, this is Beckenhorst, publishes with lots of different publishers, but he has a lot of pieces, especially church pieces with Henshaw, and I really like his stuff. You'll recognize this tune, St. Columbia. It's an Irish melody, and the text is, you know, it's pretty much the King of Love, my shepherd is. It's the Psalm 23, and then where it talks, and I believe it's John, about he is the good shepherd.